This is Michael Tegos from Smartkarma. This is another Webinar Wednesday. I am very pleased to welcome back to the webinar Jesus Rodriguez Aguilar. Jesus will present an overview of Europe's event-driven environment, as well as some key ideas there. And Jesus, you are well placed to do that, as you have been focusing on event-driven in analysis in Europe for a long while now. So you can take over.
Good afternoon, Asia, and good morning, Europe, if we have also some participants from Europe. So in the next half an hour, I'll try to present an overview of M&A deals in Europe, in the European space, and also will touch on some special situations that I usually publish, but that I publish regularly on. So without much delay, I will jump on the deals. So I will, as I said, I will cover some European M&A, some holding companies, and some share classes, because there are a few Smartkarma clients that are interested in the latter. So that's for them. What is happening? Well, I'm aware that anybody knows this slide and anybody knows this chart. And if not, here it is. There's like some post-COVID M&A fever, and the market is breaking new records month after month. So we had in May just over $540 billion US worth of transactions, and also in last 6 months to May, deals worth over $500 billion. Which has happened only in 5 occasions in this century until the current environment. So you can see there was like very, very, very few deals in Q2 2020, and all of a sudden, due to low valuations, financing available, the number of transactions has skyrocketed, which means obviously a lot of trading and a lot of investment opportunities for Smartkarma clients. So what has happened? Well, all factors were to set new records in M&A. We've seen large operations. From my European side, I've been covering Vonovia Deutsche Wohnen. That is Central European real estate with a focus in rentals. There's been a S&P Global IHS market. I guess most of you are aware of this one. It's progressing well. That's probably why I haven't been publishing or updating many things on this deal. There's Veolia Suez. That's been a fun one with a P&R battle, trying to involve French government, involving the trade unions, trying to bring white knights, so some infrastructure funds. I will comment about this a little bit later. But since the beginning, Veolia absolutely want to acquire Suez, and it was looking like really, really ugly for the Suez board, because Veolia had already like an almost controlling stake on Suez. So if things had gone as probably Veolia's script was planning, probably most of Suez board would have been ousted in the spring AGM. So thank God all parties sat down to the negotiating table, because I can assure you that the French government was absolutely in a state of panic what was happening. And well, at the end, what was most likely is that we've got a new French champion in a sector, this environmental sector, waste sector, etc., that will need more consolidation. Telefónica is another one. It all of a sudden managed 2 large deals, sale of Telxius Towers to one of the main American tower companies, and the merger with Liberty in the UK. So that all of a sudden has brought Telefónica leverage from nearly 52 billion euros to 26, something like that. I might be slightly wrong in the figures, but that's been that order. What else are we seeing now? We're seeing cross-border transactions that largely disappeared during the lockdowns. And this is in part due to the vaccination campaigns, reduction of economic uncertainty, little by little, maybe not for tourism, but little by little is becoming life as usual, not completely. I'm just thinking I had my first dose of the vaccine 10 days ago, which, by the way, incidentally is funny because people are having sort of school playground conversations. I mean, adults are having school playground conversations about which vaccine have you got? Have you got the AstraZeneca? Have you got the Pfizer? Have you got the Moderna? Oh, mine is better, mine is bigger, that sort of things. What else? We are seeing both trade and private equity buyers. Private equity accounts for 34% of last M&A. And we can see that especially in British companies, especially in mid-caps. I'm almost sure that private equity is sliding the rule through many of them. There's low financing costs, and there's no problem to place that for M&A. And now combinations of cash and shares are more frequent, while during the worst months of the pandemic, it was just mainly cash because companies were like very cheap. And we've seen the appeal to white knights, say, for instance, in the case of G4S, Suez trying to bring some infrastructure funds. So this is the big picture. Anyway, so now we are talking about the spreads. Many deals, especially here in Europe, are being friendly, majority. But and that typically grants something around 2% spread. Sometimes it is even less. It is even less. If it is something that is going to close in 3 months maximum and with maximum certainty, you will see definitely less than 1% gross spread. Here I'm talking mainly about gross spreads. But now I'm seeing more unsolicited approaches this first half of the year. Also, we've seen since summer has been more bargaining with some substantial increases to the initial offer. And here I have to say that in all these situations, I've been positive about the deal right from the start. So, for instance, in gas minerals, you know that they wanted to acquire the main shareholders of the company. They wanted to get in on the cheap, but they were not lucky enough because in parallel to the transaction, the copper price was skyrocketing, basically. So that offer was raised from 640 to 869p, which is quite a bit. G4S from 190 to Allies 245p. Allied was the white knight called by G4S board, whom didn't like at all Gardas. And that was another one long and nasty battle with Garda. They were like calling themselves both boards, pretty ugly things. There's been a Crédit Agricole Creval. There's been an increased offer. That's an interesting one because although there's not much consolidation, what the European Central Bank would like between banks from different countries because of cultural differences, which is something that is not happening, say, in the United States. But there's been some consolidation among domestic regional players. Another one we've seen and mentioned, really fun one, was Veolia Suez. So the initial offer was 15.5 euros, then it got increased to 18, then to 20.5. And when we're talking about large caps, this is a lot. What else are we seeing now? Well, we're seeing ongoing negotiations. Many of them are covered in Smartkarma. I'll give you just some examples. I don't want to bore you with all the detail. But with Siemens, last offer is 875. This one, incidentally, is the fifth offer that Siemens is putting in front of Sane's board. And this time, the board of Sane has agreed to sit down at the negotiating table. And my guess is that they will try to get a little bit more. I don't think it'll be a lot more because there's been like a small increases. So nothing such as gas minerals or Veolia Suez. Here, the increases have been tinier. But nevertheless, here there's a deal with almost 4% gross spread, and that I say that is very, very likely to close. And if not, Sane is a good business, and they should reap the rewards of their M&A strategy. What else have we got? Oh, well, we've seen here, like, as mentioned, a few offers that have been bumped recently. So there's a small one here, Asterion, which is Spanish infrastructure fund trying to buy a fiber network in Italy called Red Elite. There's a negative spread, 5.6. My target price is 3.04. I guess this offer needs to be bumped, and probably Asterion will do it. Probably around that level. Generali Cattolica, another negative spread, that's in Italy. And there's another ongoing negotiation, in this case with regulators. Iberdrola buying PNM Resources in the US. Well, you all know that that deals in the energy regulated sector, they usually take at least a year. This one seems to be progressing well, in spite of some panic from some investors, which were like undoing their possessions. But so far, I think you can find 2.5% gross, 5% annualized, and I think this is a pretty good level for something that will close certainly. Talking about some sectors, well, things haven't really changed much with the banking sector. In Europe needs consolidation. There are like many banks in Europe. The ECB's rates policy is hurting profitability, although it's true that the curve is stepping up a little bit. So at least banks are able to make a little bit more money. We still got banks, European banks awash with cash, with very strong capitalization ratios. And the ECB authorizes now dividends, which should help their market prices. M&A seems the main way to increase profitability. Portfolio rationalization, selling some subsidiaries that are not very profitable, cost reductions, efficiency gains. As mentioned, the ECB encourages cross-border consolidation, but it's difficult due to culture. And honestly, I don't see it happening. And banks are still trading cheap, with most of large European banks trying below tangible book value. Some ideas, well, something we covered here in the past. There are minor deals, obviously, but CaixaBank Bankia was completed. Unicaja Liber Bank, those are a couple of small Spanish banks, this in the making, 0.% spread. Here we were calling for this merger to happen long time before it was announced. There's another one, which is Sabadell. Sabadell is like one of the champions in Europe this year due to the I won't call it re-rating, but definitely the share price has gone up by almost 60% since before it started merger talks with BBVA, which didn't happen at the end, mainly because Sabadell has a UK subsidiary, Lloyds TSB, that was being valued at zero. by BBVA and also by most analysts. But this unit is beginning to post some profits for the first time in years. So I say there's a strategic turnaround plan with Sabadell, and they brought in a chap called César González Bueno, which has been the guy who built the ING, the Spanish subsidiary from the Dutch bank, from scratch, and it has become a very successful bank. So they've done the same. So if he can do something with Sabadell, current return on tangible equity is 1.25. In the plans, in 3 years, management thinks they'll be able to reach 6%. But this is still above the WACC. WACC, depending on sources, can be around 80 to almost 10%, depending on who you ask. Bank of Spain reckons that most Spanish banks, their WACCs are around 8%. So I think this is a candidate to be acquired, even if its share price has gone up so much. I don't think this is going to happen in the short term, but it will happen. There's also in Italy Crédit Agricole, which is interested in gaining size through smaller deals, such as did with Creval. So there you go. You can focus on any small and medium Italian bank. Probably it'll receive some takeover interest, and that also happens with medium insurance companies in Spain. Sorry, in Italy, where there is certainly some consolidation coming. What else? UK. This is an interesting one. Drivers for risk arb there. Well, mainly I think it's private equity picking up bargains. It seems that the sell-side analysts seem to be valuing companies in the country with too large market risk premium. This is really one of the explanations I can think of, that and together with Brexit. The main sectors here are financial services and healthcare. Most of them are friendly deals. Some situations, well, we're covering almost all of them here in Smartkarma. KKR, John Line, 0.5 gross spread. Ransom Aspire, so gross spread is a negative 4%. Carlyle Vectura, so this is another healthcare. There's UDG as well, that was trading well above the initial offer. So in general, focus on FTSE 250 companies, and there's a bunch of them that are still cheap. Another sector, well, there's been a few deals during summer and autumn. And telcos, I'm seeing MásMóvil, Euskaltel, that's a merger in Spain. There's been a run of consolidation. There's a private equity buying MásMóvil acquiring Euskaltel, and Euskaltel that may try to acquire Vodafone Spain. This one is private equity involved. They obviously tend to be friendly deals. And there's a large one that's been of interest to many of the clients, that is EQT KPN. KPN seems definitely willing to go it alone, and EQT should really table a knockout bid. Otherwise, this deal will not happen. But it's the one everybody is thinking of at the moment in Europe. Other sectors, what is happening? Well, pretty much all over the world. Consolidation, digitalization, opportunistic. Some sectors, company share prices have not yet reached the end of 2019 share prices. And here we are seeing some semi-hostile deals. Some ideas, situations, renewables, EQT Solar Pack, energy, IFM launching a partial bid for Naturgy because its owners are private equity and La Caixa, which needs money to run one of the largest foundations in Europe. So they're definitely milking this company for dividends. So dividend yield is, my current price is somewhere like near 7%, which is for an infrastructure company with all the gas network in Spain is not bad at all. There's the interesting situation, because at the same time, IMF is just like trying, I think it's a 2% spread to IFM bid, which needs to be authorized by the Spanish government. But here there's the other large shareholder of Naturgy, which is Criteria Caixa, which is buying shares. So IMF is trying to acquire something around 23%, and Criteria Caixa, which had below 25%, has now increased its shareholding to 25 and something percent. So this is definitely competing, and the share price of Naturgy will be supported by both the bid and Criteria buying shares. So that seems an interesting one. Iberdrola is looking for more acquisitions. So it acquired a company in Australia last year, beginning of this one, and now it's buying P&M Resources. So definitely Iberdrola will be looking at things in developed markets. Luxury goods. So thoughts. Since there were like some rumors about LVMH trying to acquire, like those shares are slightly go up beyond rational. I don't think TOTS is something like really interested for LVMH in the same way as Tiffany was. Tiffany came to, I'm not going to say plug a hole, but to increase the offer of LVMH in hard luxury. And definitely that was like an important acquisition for LVMH. TOTS, it's really not even 2% of LVMH revenue. So, and I'm thinking I'm being a bit generous here, although there's a turnaround. But I don't think why LVMH would be interested in that right now. But, well, it could happen. Maybe not in the short term. What else? There's real estate. Something I'm not like commenting much, but I have in my previous insights. There's been a lot of action in Central and Eastern Europe real estate. So I'm talking about countries such as companies from Austria, which often have investments in nearby, in Hungary, Romania, in Germany, obviously in Austria. So there's been a few consolidation and Game of Thrones kind of movements. That's interesting and one to watch. And in Spain, there's the merger, the market rumors about merger between Merlin and LAR. These companies was buying the minorities in SFL, a French subsidiary, like paying a premium for the less than 10% that they did not control. So they are paying about 40% premium to the prior day trading price. Hotels Melia, so this is a large Spanish hotel operator, and maybe trying some deals or might be acquired. So that's one to watch. Spinoffs, something hot at the moment, Vivendi UGM. This is something I'm planning to publish here in Smartkarma. But definitely the value of Vivendi is almost that of UMG, and that's it. So the owner, Bolloré, you'll know him, wants to list it, has sold the 20% to Tencent, plans to sell about 10% to Bill Ackman, to his SPAC, retain 60% to distribute to shareholders of Vivendi, and Vivendi should keep around 10% of the company. So it's a very good deal for Bolloré, because he will get some shares directly as one of the main shareholders, as a top shareholder in Vivendi, and he will control another 10% through Vivendi. So that's probably the rationale for deal. diminish the conglomerate discount and allowing him to personally control UMG. That's another spin-off I touched on Smartkarma recently, Acciona Energy. Similar situation, Acciona has become from a contractor to a mainly a renewables energy company. So, and they are going ahead with the listing, with the spin-off. Other ones, well, I touched recently Bankinter Línea Directa. If somebody paid attention to that, probably they are making a little bit of money, because Línea Directa is even now above the target price I mentioned, and Bankinter has also increased. So that's been a good split and good for both of them. And Repsol Renewables is another spin-off that it's on the cards. So because I'm just like going over the time. Royal Dutch Shell, which is trading at a 6% discount, could be an interesting one in DLCs. BHP, well, it's trading range bound, but I think it's interesting to set up the trade. Obviously here there's no big catalyst, it's just back to the mean. And that should be done through the US listings. Holdcos, the discounts of the typical Swedish holdings, well, many of them are now trading at a premium. And Kinnevik, even at a large premium, now is being valued as a successful VC. Industry burden, interesting as well. Investor interesting as well. I don't really know what to do with this. Some ideas, Alba is very cheap, although not very liquid, and GBL 33% discount. So here I wasn't like completely right. Pargisa is no longer in the holding chain. Controlling shareholders are the same, but with their double voting rights, investors are not really liking this. Should tighten, is a lot, but no catalyst inside. Share classes, here SSAB as a new controlling shareholder, and there might be some opportunity there. BMW, Fuchs, Henkel, so mainly German share classes. Consolidation in Italian companies, we've seen that in FTSE. Danieli should finish the implementation soon, and Telecom Italia, that's the big question mark. Grifols as well, something is still like trading at a large discount. Anyway, apologies for using up all my time. If there's any questions.
That is perfectly okay, Jesus. Thank you very much for this very comprehensive overview. As Jesus said, if there are any questions, please send them through the Q&A button on your Zoom app. There are already some questions here. One attendee asks, do you know whether these deals are usually conditional on due diligence or obtaining financing, which seems to be the case in US takeover events? Or must the bidder already have financing in place before they launch a bid?
Most of them I've seen them conditional. Well, I've seen some conditional on due diligence, especially the slightly semi-hostile. Not on financing. I haven't seen any really reckless attempt to purchase a company and saying, well, this is conditional on financing. In fact, I've only seen one of all those I've been covering recently, and I don't even remember the name now of the company, to be very honest. But there are some conditional on opening the books. Some of these Italian deals are.
Okay, thank you for that. Another question. So another attendee asks, I would love to get your ideas on the entire, I'm sorry, I apologize in advance for how I'm going to pronounce this, but Bolloré or Bolloré.
Yes.
So inclusive of Financière de l'Audit or Compagnie de l'Audit, as it is called now. Given your comments on Vivendi and UMG, as well as Succession, the attendee would be interested in your thoughts.
Well, here with Bolloré, well, what I can say about him is that he's always, sorry for stating the obvious, but he's always doing whatever is better for him. So it's not that all of a sudden he decides to list UMG, to just to offer Vivendi shareholders a revaluation of or reversal of the holding discount. I think he's just thinking, well, this is a great business, the best business of Vivendi, and I will keep on controlling it. Because if you're thinking he's holding over 23% of the shares of Vivendi, so he will receive accordingly shares in UMG. Plus, Vivendi will be controlling a 10% of UMG. So he will, I don't know what have they been discussing with Tencent, which has a 20% direct shareholder in UMG. But definitely he'll have a lot to say, and probably he'll be controlling UMG. So this is going to happen, but not just because he's saying that he's going to reduce the holding discount. Even some analysts, when they are talking about Vivendi, they tend to say, well, Vivendi is just like a great business, and some so-so, such as Albas, Canal Plus, and a stake in Telecom Italia, which nobody can understand because Vivendi is also the top shareholder in Telecom Italia.
Understood. Another question from the same attendee is on Alba. The attendee would love your thoughts on the adjusted debt for Rioja, given how they have structured the acquisition vehicle. Payback of interest is almost similar to dividends received.
Mm-hmm. You mean the structure through which Alba has a shareholder in Naturgy?
That is my understanding. The structure of the acquisition vehicle itself.
Yes. So the structure, they've done it pretty much like that, and I tend to see that they are canceling the debt with dividends pretty much, and they reduce quarter by quarter. They are slightly reducing probably with some cash of the company, but largely with the dividends they are receiving. I mean, they're probably getting over 8% dividend yield, while the financing of that deal, I doubt that would be costing them more than 250 basis points, and it is probably less. So the good thing with Alba is that they tend to be shrewd investors, and I haven't seen them in many large screw-ups. Sorry, my French, over the last years. So yeah, they're financing that neatly. The thing is that Alba doesn't talk too much about that, and if one tries and see the financial releases of Alba, one needs to be aware that there is something, and you can see because one thing is the valuation and the theoretical valuation. So they net those amounts, and one can sort of figure out what is the remaining debt on the Naturgy stake. But yeah, they are doing that. And the only pity with Alba is that they tend to pay a stable dividend, but they are not overly generous. I mean, the thing, Alba belongs basically to Banca March and some of the main shareholders of Banca March. So they're people who have been living pretty well over the last 60, 70 years, 80 years. So they running the company, and they are very rich anyway. They don't screw up the investors that invest along them, but they are not particularly generous in dividends either.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. Another bird's eye view question is, how long do these non-competitive takeover situations typically last from launch of bid until payment?
Typical M&A situations now in Europe, sometimes I say between 6 and 9 months, depending whether there is a squeeze out involved, whether it's been friendly or not. interestingly enough, some that started like with a lot of noise, such as Veolia Suez, well, probably is now resolving earlier than expected. But for many of them, I'm saying that since launch of the bid until the ticker disappears from the screen is 6 months, usually at the most.
Got it. Maybe I'll take a final question from the audience. An attendee asks, there were some reports, rumors of Siemens Energy privatizing Siemens Gamesa. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Are you aware of this? Do you know what is the latest? And do you have any views on the likelihood of a deal done?
So let me see, because I must see something here. So just bear with me 1 second. Yeah, there were by mid-May, one of the main economic dailies said that Siemens was planning to launch a delisting bid. What I know is that it has been a little bit of a headache for Siemens Gamesa, and the shares have been like a little bit volatile. Siemens Gamesa needs to do some changes to adapt to a wind energy sector. And probably what Siemens is thinking is that by holding all the capital of Siemens Gamesa, they could accelerate some change. So there's been like a few big rumors. There was one in December last year because some large Asian groups were Shanghai Electric and Mitsubishi were thinking about acquiring Gamesa. Now again in May, but I haven't heard anything since. When I did evaluation, that was my target price was 30.3 of the company. I think rumors will probably come back again. Nevertheless, it wouldn't hurt to hold the shares of Siemens and of Siemens Gamesa, and they've been on an upward trajectory. Well, they were until the end of last year when it wasn't purchased and the share prices dropped. Now they've been more or less stable since they mentioned on 18 May. I mean, it is difficult to say, but it is not the first time there are rumors and why Siemens should be purchasing that. At the same time, the Spanish government thinks this is a strategic company. So they try to protect that, although I don't see it happening, that the Spanish government tries to block a bid from a German company. In the same way as the Spanish company will not block a bid for the partial bid of IFM, an Australian infrastructure fund, for Naturgy. They would just not do that. But, well, in a nutshell, yes, there's like bid rumors, still aware, probably the company is worth more. And there's an, I'm just saying, there was an insight published on 19 May, which goes a little bit over the situation.
Thank you very much for that. And thank you, everyone, for your questions. Please note that Jesus is available for bespoke research requests or premium services, so do contact your Smartkarma account manager in this regard. And as Jesus mentioned, you can find a lot more details on Smartkarma in Jesus's insights. So I do encourage you to seek those out. And if you have any other questions, please email us at research@smartkarma.com. Jesus, thank you very much for your time today and for all your insights.
Thanks to you. Thanks to everyone.